You're listening to episode 53 of the Style and Stewardship podcast. On this episode, I wanted to talk to you about food and how food is fuel for your body. Many of us are not doing the bare minimum when it comes to nourishing and taking care of our bodies and taking care of this temple that the Holy Spirit resides in. And I think that it's so unfortunate that we talk about a lot of things, but we don't talk about how we're actually feeling as we're trying to steward well. This is not an area that God leaves out, and it's certainly not an area that we need to either. So, on this episode, we're talking about food as fuel. I hope it's encouraging for you on this little Wellness Wednesday episode. And quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. You're listening to the Style and Stewardship podcast. So what is stewardship? That is exactly what we'll be talking about in each and every episode of this podcast. As Christ followers, I think it's so important that we manage every single area of our lives to the best of our ability. Not perfectly, but intentionally in our own unique way, and holding on to God's grace every single step of our journey. On this podcast, I'll be sharing thoughts, things that God's teaching me, and transparent talks. My hope is that when you listen, you'll feel equipped, you'll be encouraged, and more than anything, I hope that you're inspired to live out your day-to-day calling in your own unique way. This podcast is for the woman who wants to hear, "Well done." What I've learned about health and wellness over the years is more so than anything, we have got to become our own health advocates. No one living outside of your body has a bigger impact on what you put in it than you do. When we talk about taking care of ourselves, and we talk about eating right and exercising, we talk about all of these different things. But one thing that we fail to realize is that many of the things that we're doing that we have learned or picked up, much of it we've been marketed to. So we can go over the last 3 decades. And we can see the last 4 decades, and we can see that so much has been manipulated in our food system, and so much has been marketed and sold to us as a healthy product or a healthy food product. We have to remember these are products. There are businesses that are set up to make billions and billions of dollars by convincing you that something is good for you. We've left out a lot of common sense, and we've started instead repeating things that we've been told over the years. So an example of that would be, me telling you, you need to have such and such servings of vegetables a day, or such and such servings of fruit today. The problem with all of this is that who says that that is the healthiest way for you to eat, or that a lot of the things that have been passed down or created for us to follow are based on recommendations due to a small population being tested and being found that a typical person eats this way. I'm being really vague about this on purpose because I don't necessarily want to point that out. But it is up to us to learn what we're putting into our bodies, learn about how we feel when we eat these things, and if they are contributing to our wellness or not. So, for instance, you may feel that based on the different things that you've heard or that you've heard other people talking about, that you're doing all the right things, but you're not having the results that you want, that you should have. you know you should feel, barring any major health concerns, you know that you should feel good. You know you should be able to sleep at night, and you know that you should be able to feel like you have some sort of vibrancy or energy. You just know this, right? But as you are doing all of these quote unquote right things and the things that we're told we should be doing and eating the foods that we're told are healthy, why do you not feel that way? What's the disconnect? What is happening? And what I believe is happening is that we have learned so much of what we should do, or I'm using air quotes, should do, or what we're supposed to do, or what we're supposed to eat, that we have no longer listened to our bodies and the symptoms and the responses that it is showing us. So many of us are stressed out, not sleeping, possibly gaining unwanted weight, having issues with our skin or with our hair, having acne, having bloating and digestive issues and all of these things. Yet you may be doing things like eating a really big salad, having a fat-free salad dressing, only eating fast food once a week, having fat-free yogurt that has fiber in it, or eating whole grains. And all of these, you hear what I'm saying? I'm saying all these things that have been marketed to us. And the problem with that is that have you looked to see if you're eating actual food? And that sounds like a crazy, crazy thing to say, but are you actually eating food? Some people are going all day without eating anything but like one meal. And I think people are calling that like OMAD, 1 meal a day. Then you've got people that are talking about you should intermittent fast. And just, you'll force your body to lose weight if you do this, because you're eating in a shorter window of time. Therefore, you're going to reduce calories. So do a 16-8, eat in this 8-hour window and don't eat 16 hours. Don't eat during this, this 16-hour window. Or you're hearing things like eat low carb, or or have a shake, to replace a couple of meals. Like, anybody else remember Slim Fast from like the 90s or the 80s or whatever? Like, my mom did it, and I used to drink her shakes. They were actually pretty good. But we are, or count this many points, or count that many points, and this food is a 0-point food, and all of this stuff. We have complicated what it means to eat and to nourish our bodies. It's almost as though the point is no longer to nourish our bodies, but to manipulate them to get the outcome that we want. Typically that's weight loss, or sometimes a doctor said that you need to drop weight. Whatever the case may be, we have turned our bodies into this thing that we no longer treat with care, and we no longer steward, if at all, because of all of the things that we have been told we should be doing. The problem with all of these things is that mainly they're trickling down from someone who has something to gain by telling you to eat, however it is that you're eating. When it comes to nourishing your body, we have to think of food as fuel. It is so much more than calories in, calories out. Yes, if you eat more calories than your body burns off, your body is going to do something with that. Our bodies are super, super intelligent. They're intelligent because they are designed, and they are designed by a creator. God made our bodies to function in a way that we have begun to manipulate instead of support. And what has happened is we have thrown in if a food label says something, or the front of a package rather, says whole grain, we're like, oh, okay, well, this is healthy because I've been told to eat whole grains. And I've been told that whole grains are good for me, so this must be good for me. Upon further inspection, if we were to say flip that package over and read the ingredients perhaps, we would see all of the things that this food-like substance had to be fortified with in order to be able to be sold as food. Just because something is edible does not mean that it is food. And just because it looks like food does not mean that it is fuel to your body. A calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. If you were to eat sugar, 15 calories of sugar, which is a teaspoon of sugar, and 15 calories of, say a raisin. I'm trying to use something kind of comparable. Your body will get more from the raisin than it will from the sugar. So though they may be equal in calories, they are not equal in your body's response and what your body's going to do with them. So sugar that's going to go immediately into your bloodstream, as opposed to something that has fiber in it and is going to go into your bloodstream slower, is going to have a different effect. Therefore, a calorie is not just a calorie. So when it comes to the whole diet world and diet culture, we know more about quote unquote diets than we do about what's actually in our food and what our bodies on a physiological standpoint considers to be fuel. We've gotten so far away from the signals and the cues that our bodies have sent us, and or the symptoms that our body is screaming at us. We're no longer in touch with our bodies. We don't know what food is anymore. We've starved ourselves so much, we've messed up our hormonal cues for hunger. We've started our day with coffee, which is a stimulant, before we've even eaten any food. So we start immediately getting cortisol and adrenaline pumping in our bodies before we ever give our bodies anything. We're telling our bodies to do something for us, as opposed to putting fuel in our bodies and giving it something to work with. We're no longer feeding ourselves. And I think it's really incredibly sad that with all the information that there is in the world, and with all the different things that we've learned to do, it's almost as though we have taught ourselves to disrespect our bodies. We have taught ourselves to disrespect what God created to be food. And we are now trying to use food as something to be manipulated, as opposed to seeing it for what it is, and the gift of being able to feed our bodies, nourish our bodies, and help our bodies to perform the way that God created them to perform. So I was thinking about this episode, and there's so many different things that I could say, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that we have got to unlearn, learn, and relearn what food actually is to our bodies. And yes, there's so much biodiversity, and we are all so different. We all have different needs, and based on our lives, our age, the different responsibilities that we have, some of us need more support than others. And some of us have really bad relationships with our bodies and with our food and food choices in general. We all have what I like to call some sort of diet X, some sort of diet baggage, or some sort of baggage when it comes to food, when it comes to the different choices that we've made, the different things that we've tried, the different plans that we've tried. And every time we've tried these different plans, we've we've created more and more like dysregulation, and created more and more, honestly, we've created a lack of balance in our own bodies and in the way that we approach food and what food actually is. It is meant to nourish. God says that he made food for the body and not the body for food. And we have totally changed our perspective about what food is. And I want to help you get your perspective right on food. And I know that this is something that a lot of us women, we have been passed down certain ideals about what our bodies should look like, or we have a lot of different ideas and fears around what is actually food to our bodies. As a matter of fact, I don't think many of us even think of it like that. We think, oh, I got to eat. Oh, I got to feed the family. Oh, I need to run here. Oh, I need to run there. What's on sale? We have complicated things so much. And I just want to encourage you to get back to the roots of what food is. And we'll be talking some more about that on some more episodes. I'll be sharing some more recipes on the blog. I'll probably be sharing some more videos on YouTube soon as well, because we've got to get back to what food was actually intended for, and that is for our bodies to perform in the way that God created them to perform, by putting the things in our bodies that are recognized as food, without always trying to manipulate and control, and create this place of like food can bring up anxiety for people, believe it or not. And I just want to encourage you this week to, I guess this would be like the Wellness Wednesday tip. Try to eat food in its whole form and not out of a package if you can help it. I'm not talking about like pastas that may come in a package because you're not making your own pasta from scratch. But I am talking about reading your labels, looking at the ingredients and what's inside the package, not just on the outside. It really is what's on the inside that counts with food. But instead of just reading the claims on the front of the bag, or seeing that it says whole grains, or whatever the case may be, what else is in it? What else is in it? Is it a whole food? And lastly, start your day with food. I hear a lot about like intermittent fasting. I've done it myself. Or, you hear things about like OMAD, and there's so much craziness around food. And, starting your day with just coffee is a surefire way to cause literal anxiety to happen. And that is not a joke. And it is not a game. And you can literally send yourself spiraling just on a hormonal level. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in the upcoming week. I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of where my heart is when it comes to food and nutrition and nourishing your body and feeding your body well so it functions the way that God intended for it to, barring any sicknesses that we may have, or sicknesses that we may come across in this imperfect world, right? This is not a perfect world, but we can do our best to steward well, and we can steward our wellness and our health on purpose. Until next time, your life matters. What you do with it matters. So what will you steward well?